6:04 a.m. on March 3rd, the Tuesday before the Minotaur training class for Summit 2026. You guys can see how the sky looks white, but it's actually orange. Looks like a hint of red. But I wanted to show you the lunar eclipse. Everything over here looks normal behind me there. So it's supposed to start at 6:04. The full eclipse is at 6:33, so this is what it looks like now. All right, you guys, truck's warming up in the background. It's currently about 11 a.m. Tuesday, December 3rd, the day before Minotaur training. It's Wednesday the 4th. So we need to go ahead, get down to Georgia. Got a full day, so I figured I'd make a little vlog series out of this whole week. You guys can see I picked up some 20-inch platinum wheels. You guys probably saw this when we did the air compressor video, or vice versa. I don't know how I'll post it. But I'm gonna go ahead and dismount these two tires, probably list them up for $100. And then I bought another set of Platy wheels with the lug nut, center caps, everything. And so we're gonna go ahead, dismount these tires because they're not the best of shape. Two are good, two are eh. I've got my brand new 20-inch tires downstairs for these rims. They're the Giovannas, I think they're called, that I actually took off my 20x12 Asante wheels. Those have been sold for weeks now. Take my Giovanni's, swap them on here, sell these tires, sell those tires, and I'll have 2 extra rims. If anybody's interested, let me know. But yeah, let's go ahead and get them on the trailer. So we got my tires loaded up. We got my platinum wheels loaded up. And that's not going anywhere, okay? Using a little ATV trailer again. If you guys missed this, I got a couple videos on rewiring it, painting it, building a custom set of ramps and everything for it. Go back and check that video out. This little trailer has been worth its weight in gold. All right, you guys, truck's all washed. Just did a quick non-agitated clean. Went ahead and degreased the engine bay. Did up underneath, did the wheels. Got all those cleaned up. I went ahead and ordered some different center caps. I'm not crazy about how chunky these are. They just look a little beanerish to me. So went ahead, ordered some. It's Tuesday night. They probably will be here Thursday or Friday, the same week as Minotaur. So I won't have those for the truck show, but the $40 replacement eBay ones that I got for the Steelies work just fine. But this truck just cleans up so well. Got all my cleaning products. Obviously street truck life, no bed cover. So yeah, I'm gonna go inside, get cleaned up really quick and hit the road. This thing looks really good. Oh man, those new wheels are really growing on me. Need to go ahead and get a factory chrome grill on the front. I will trade for a stock clean grill, very clean grill, plus cash on your end. All right, you guys, we're down in Georgia. We're about 40 minutes away from the hotel. Sorry if the gauge cluster is hyper flashing. I've actually got the dimmer switch all the way down because I've got very bright LEDs. As you guys can see, when I go all the way up, yeah, they're a little painful at night. So you guys can see, I just want to show you my transmission fittings. Transmission's 130 degrees. It's 52 degrees outside. We've been doing 75, 80 the entire way here. Obviously, we're not towing a load. It's not 100 degrees outside, but just goes to show these custom fittings that I had machined, or that I had made with the big 10 AM line, with the big 6.0 transcooler. Keeps everything nice and cool. So just figured I'd get a little in-cab footage. You guys can hear that SXE 366 singing away with the 9.1 AR housing. And we're in the 120 aggressive or 140 extreme tune. I honestly can't remember. It's been that long. All right, you guys, we're staying at the Fairfield Hotel. Usually I stay in the Home 2 Suites, but this place was actually like $100 cheaper. That hotel is pretty nice. Stayed there the last 2 years. So this year we're actually gonna go ahead and stay in this one here. Everything was in place, nothing moved. So as long as you guys do a nice tie down strap job, you won't have any problems. I guess the Bang Bus is over there, and then Angela and Bill are in their children home, and then there's the Speakeasy. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this up. Truck did great, ran it in the 120 tune all the way here. Not quite sure what we did on fuel mileage, but yeah, ignore the park job. I'm exhausted if you guys can't tell. No leaks or anything, so I'm gonna go ahead, get this thing unpacked, and man, those new platinum wheels just pop with this truck. You're good. You guys having fun?
Oh yeah. It's only what, 9 o'clock at night? Sorry, when it's on the ground, they won't be looking at that part.
Everyone in this room, we all have struggles. We all have our moments. This is what this room is for. It's face-to-face, it's being together to work through it.
Thank you all for coming up. It's really good to see you here, to see you guys here. Bill, we've been trying to get you out up on the stage here for. Let me get my my notes up here, and everybody else, it's really good to have you up here. We always love having you on the stage. You always got plenty of stuff to say. How's things been going with you so far this year?
Great. This year's shaping up to be one of the best years that we've had in a long time. So.
Very good. Zach, how's Full Force doing?
Same for us. It's been a great year so far.
James?
It's great. We've got a lot of cool things coming out, especially this weekend. Big announcement.
Oh. Well, when you're ready to do your announcement, make sure that we play the bus video first, so we can get everybody hyped up.
That does fit through a drive-through.
It does. And it'll actually race a few people on the street too, so. Not that you won anything, but, so. Today's panel, we're going to be talking about the state of the industry, where the 7.3 liter industry, but the diesel industry in general is going. I know a lot of people have seen a lot of changes over the last probably the last 10 years. You know, things have been moving in interesting directions, dealing with EPA and stuff like that. We're going to try to cover some of those subjects.
In 2 or 3 months, because that's people are buying them up, or people are going, well, it's been hard to get for the last 6 months, so they've got 3 of them. I'm going to order 2. That way, I have a spare, and it gets harder and harder and harder to keep up with those products, and keeping up with the supply to dealers and other customers.
Yeah, I think I would probably say business scale is, I think anybody who's created a business recently in this industry, not expected. Like the scaling is so unexpected. I can't even imagine what Full Force does. I know what we do just with them alone. That's not including the thousands of other dealers they have, or Alliant, just keeping parts on hand. It's not just making 10 products and parts. It's, oh, there's 100 going out this month, and nobody can keep up. So
for someone like you, where your product line is a blend of both sourced parts and then stuff that you guys have manufactured on your own, do you run into any of the manufacturing supply chain issues as well, or is it just the sourced parts?
that is a full-time job with like 4 people going on, and we run into all kinds of issues. But quality control, just going through things and
he's got a very legitimate concern. The supply of processors that they use to repair their ECMs, to his knowledge, he just bought the last 160 of them available. He says that's going to last me 3 months. So for all you installers out there, he asked me to give you this advice, or asked me to plead to you. When you talk to your customers about installing chips or touching anywhere near their ECM, make sure that they clean the ECMs well, and that do not have the key in the ignition when they install a chip or do anything with the ECM, because very quickly here, he's not going to have any replacement ECMs for customers, and this is going to be a real problem for a lot of people in the industry. So, but yeah, there's no more of these parts being made. It's like, what do you do now? There's some ideas on the drawing board for a few different companies of a replacement. Kind of trying to do a drop-in ECM, but that's all going to be take a lot of time. So, those issues as well.
Yeah, I think probably many of you in here buy from Reliant Power, and I think one of the issues we struggle with on a day-to-day basis is, you know, of our 8 warehouses across the country, we're working on a system now to kind of level the inventory across the country, where I get a lot of calls from people, hey, you got 200 in Wisconsin and you got 0 in Florida, or you got 10 in Denver and 0 in Wisconsin. So this year so far, we've taken a better approach to trying to figure out where this inventory needs to go across the country, especially with high demand items, contamination kits. But even as far as the legacy stuff goes, the 7.3, 6 liter, you know, Alliant Power is very committed to, I would say we kind of doubled down on the legacy business. We've bought a lot of stuff from Navistar, and we're going to continue to buy a lot of that inventory that they're getting rid of. The IPR valves for one, so they're all genuine. But just trying to get a pulse on the demand. You know, we all know we have a run on 17 to 19 kits one month, and then 23 to 26 kits the next month. You know, it's kind of all over the place. So trying to figure out how we prepare and how we stock accordingly for those peaks and demands and stuff. And I know a lot of you guys do, you know, scheduled orders and program orders. That helps quite a bit, especially with a lot of our larger customers. But still, that's not really.
It does help your forecasting a little bit,
Right.
but
Yeah, it does. But we still continually run out, and a lot of it on our side isn't necessarily that. We have an issue with stock. We have an issue from Bosch or from Holset or Cummins or Mopar, getting those products from the actual provider.
So I was gonna kind of touch on that. That's a thing that we've been seeing is like our manufacturers, and not them, but I'm gonna use him as an example. You call the order, 7.3 wheel, and he's like, yeah, I've got 200 of them coming in next week. Well, they're being processed right now, and then you call him next week, he's like, maybe 2 weeks. And it's that way throughout the industry, and they're waiting on Bosch to supply something, and you're like, Bosch is this, billion-dollar company, and they can't keep up with the parts for me. You take somebody that's building 6 different parts, for older vehicles, and trying to keep up with that demand is gotten almost out of hand. We're almost, and maybe somebody else out there has run into this too, it's almost like a COVID 2.0 scenario of part supply. Like you're trying to get X number of parts, and the manufacturer says they can do it, and then they can't do it, and then they say they can do it, and then you get a random box of stuff show up. So it's like
20% of your order.
Well, to his point, like you're doing forecasting, and you're like, hey, I'm going to order this many over the next 6 months, and at the end of that 6 months, you've gotten half of your order because the manufacturer can't keep up with the
A few years ago, we ran into an issue where when they remanufactured the heads in Caterpillar, they couldn't fix the welds. The cracks were too large, so they scrapped them, and we recast it all brand new heads. So some of you guys in the shops might remember, you'd get a reman head in a box, and there would be a new head in a box. You never knew what you were going to get. But that's since been 15 years ago, and now we're seeing that the core shortage for this is really going to be a disruption in the repair side. I'm not sure what's going to happen or where it's going to go. I mean, a lot of us are seeing it now in the 6.4 pressure pump. We're on back order for many units. There's a valve that you can't get. So I'm not sure what the end result is. Ford's discontinuing part numbers at, I would say, a record pace right now. They're exiting that Navistar business. So that's why I said we were committed to doubling down on the legacy product, and we're looking for suitable suppliers to get this product as well. But I think that's going to be our challenge. Is if you have a 7.3, 6-liter, 6.4, there's a good, probably a fairly good scenario where you're going to be waiting for a a product that is correlated, because we're not able to get the core. IDMs, different things like that, so it's gonna be, I think, a situation rapidly approaching us before year end.
Yeah, like even in our industry, I mean, the things that we're struggling right now is, I mean, we're already struggling with the tariffs because of our electronics components that come from China. But the big threat that we're facing right now is memory shortages because of all the AI data centers going up. All of the memory manufacturers have signed multi-billion-dollar contracts with data centers and selling all their memory to them. And what little bit we have left, the price has gone through the roof. And you know, so I mean, it's affecting every part of this industry. There's no part that's untouched at this point. So it's the next.
Higher perceived value, but didn't cost us a lot of money. So anytime they need to make the customer happy, it's like, hey, you can give them like any of these things right here, you can pick from that list and you can give them to them like just to make their day. And it could be because something's going wrong, it could be something going right, it could be something that has nothing to do with us. Oh, I had a crazy day, right? I've been in traffic all day, or my kid is sick. Just something to make their day better, because those are the things they'll remember. Anybody else? What are some of the things you do to actually empower your team? And it could be something you do to empower them with clients. It could be something you do to empower them internally, or something else you do. Anybody else? Yes.
Well, one of my guys, he was down to his last truck payment, so on the job that we finished, I made his last truck payment for him.
Oh, that's good, right? So one of these guys down to his last truck payment, so on the job they finished, he made the last truck payment for him. Do you think that guy will remember that? Right? Most definitely. So again, for those of you with teams, you start to think about, hey, how can I empower the people that service our clients, right? Because those are the people who keep the business running. I got more examples on that in just a second. So back to Ritz-Carlton. This right here is the Ritz-Carlton that is roughly about 2 hours from here, right? It's out on Lake Oconee. A lot of people don't realize that it's one out there, but it is. I love it. It's probably my favorite one. So what I do, we do conferences a couple times a year. So before the conference, I have like a lot of talks I have to do. So I'll go out, do a staycation, kind of lock in for a week and just work on my content. So inside of my hotel room, I'll take my books with me. I'll take printers with me. I'll have like flip chart papers and stuff all around the room. So this is in May. I go out to Ritz-Carlton in Lake Oconee. I got my papers around the room. Everything's scrambled. Everything's laid out. I take a printer with me, snacks with me, everything. Try my best not to watch Netflix while I'm up there. So as I'm locked in,
pushing the envelope. If they run faster, school faster, go better, run cooler. A lot of guys are already trying on Super Duty. They just got released from the E99.
Or you can buy a full kit with the upper and lower hose. So, multiple different options that you can offer your.
But no, like I said, I'm interested to see, like, well, once people actually get in their trucks, see actually how it does and everything.
Yeah, we've got it in like two test trucks running around doing that, getting feedback, but it's most of the feedback is internal.
Yeah.
So we're looking for a little bit more external feedback.
It's hard to fill, it's hard to sell it. So one of the things I don't teach that I would like to teach more often in a year is electrical training. And the thing is, guess what's the most needed out there in the shops?
Electrical training.
Electrical, exactly. So therefore, one of the things that we ask that, given current technology and old technology, obviously, which we see in the 7.3, the thing is we still need to have good electrical background and understand electrical. And some of you that are working technicians have somehow accepted the fact that you can't learn it, but then you might be one of those that thinks that the test light is probably the best tool on earth, And things are changing dramatically with current technology, but again, when we work with older stuff, the challenges are often there. I can't tell you how many 7.3s I've diagnosed in the last 3 years that actually I have come across, burnt up ECMs, PCMs, and in this case, that's not good because somebody probed the wrong terminal and decided to put power on it,
Yeah.
So therefore, one of the things I am about training is, first of all, we heard our presenter talk about culture and everything, and I kind of related to that for the simple fact that in the shop environment among technicians, a big thing is the attitude thing. Where's your attitude at? Because a lot of technicians just have that attitude that okay, this is what I can do, this is as far as I can diagnose. And an often thing that I hear from shops, or when I visit shops, is that they have the truck that's unfixable. And it's kind of a sin, some of the things that I come across once in a while. So I guess I could tell you the classic one was, in Las Vegas, some people know me in the shops. I try to keep a low profile because I get pretty busy. But in this case, we had a 7.3 99 model. Actually, the owner of the truck actually called.
Brandon Thompson. Brandon's unbeaten crew. Ben Lawton.
Hey! I know Chad.
Joseph Arms. Ethan Hurt.
Ethan! Hey! Get over here.
Britt Knox. All right, number 7, lucky number 7. Eric Rowe.
Oh my gosh, y'all, this is like 3-2 of some category.
All right, Cody Brumfield.
Cody! Hey! I swear it's not right.
Kyle Johnson. Kyle Johnson.
Yay! You guys took it with the grip. Not with me, I'm not special enough. Stand there and look pretty.
There you go.
And
All right, and that's it. There are 12 attendees for the VIP breakfast tomorrow. And please
good morning.
600, 640,
I did, I got up really early.
I found an A2L for it, so with the A2L, I had the full minute.
We're blessed with Lamar Tyler speaking on company culture and how to stand out. And we have Tony Salas in the afternoon doing incredible.
don't forget, we have the tailgate party tonight. It'll be in the parking lot by the camper. Thanks to Paul and Chris Rutledge for bringing some delightful barbecue. It'll be Texas barbecue, but actually from no, but Chick-fil-A. Wait, what? Oh, yeah, but it's your barbecue guy that's coming out tonight, right? No? Oh, the Vinny's barbecue guy. Oh, my bad. So, and then lunch sponsored today by Complete Performance. So, thank you guys for that. So, it's going to be a really good day today, and we're going to go ahead and get started with this. Our first speaker, Joanna Byrne, is the owner of Byrne Diesel Performance and a John Deere certified dealer instructor. She is the former assistant professor and program coordinator of diesel service technology at South Plains College, where she spent 7 years training the next generation of technicians in the diesel and auxiliary systems for on-highway, construction, and ag applications. Please welcome to the stage, Joanna Byrne.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope y'all had a great time last night. I know I did.
So y'all are a pretty mixed crowd, and I like that because the topic that I'm talking about with y'all today is working with Gen Z. And I've had the pleasure, I know what that sounds like, of working with Gen Z for a number of years at the educational level right out of high school. So, let's get right in it. Hold on. There we go. Now we're working. All right. The first thing I want to know from y'all is, who's a boomer in here? I want to know who I'm talking to. We've just got No? Okay. We've just got a few, right? All right. How about Gen X? Oh, that's a lot of y'all. Come on. Yeah. Right. Play games with me today. All right. Millennials. How many of y'all are millennials? A lot more of y'all are millennials. We've kind of moved up in the world, right? And then, of course, Gen Z. Let's see. Yeah, I know when I was talking to people yesterday, I was seeing a lot of Gen Z. So, one of the things about Gen Z that we see is they get a lot of really, really bad PR on the internet, right? Like, we know this is true. If you're Gen Z, you've seen it, right? If you're millennial, you've seen it. If you're Gen X, you've seen it. Y'all are all on the internet. Other boomers have seen it too, right? It's just not very many of you here. All right, look at this. These are things that we see. We talk about them. They're called self-centered, entitled, lazy, easily offended, raised with participation trophies, no attention span, no dedication, and not socially apt, right? Does that sound like what y'all see on the internet for Gen Z?
Yeah.
Yeah? Pretty consistent? That's what they said about millennials. That's literally the description of millennials. What's going on there? That's not really fair, is it? Okay, so what's going on? This sort of thing that we see is driven primarily because negative input and negative content, those of you who are content creators know this, if it's rage bait, it gets tons and tons and tons of traffic. We never see the good stuff, okay? So what I've seen from Gen Z is they're innovative. They don't think the way the older generations do because what they were taught on is very, very different. So I think they get a bad rap, and then we don't give them a chance. We don't give them an opportunity to shine at what they are good at because they do think differently than we do. One of the biggest things that we see, and this isn't just for Gen Z, but this is for any negative influence out there, is the overwhelming power of the internet. It's not just stuff we see on TV at 8 p.m. anymore. If any of you even remember what that's like on the younger generation, I do. I remember my parents watching the news, and that's how you got bad news. Now it's in our pockets all the time, right? So when we have something that's negative, we've seen that with millennials, and we're seeing it with Gen Z, and we're going to see it with Gen Alpha. And why do I say this? Okay, we've got this massive misrepresentation of information. And I want to talk just briefly about I'm going to mess his name up, Dr. Jared Cooney Horvath's recent testimony to the U.S. Senate. It went on February 2nd, so this just happened, okay? And because of this, he presented a paper that used international schooling data. They shut down, and at that point, they've already quit. That's quiet quitting. Okay? All right. This is going to hurt everybody's feelings. I know they're coming in and they don't have any experience. I'm aware of that. You cannot pay them $10 or $12 an hour anymore. Now that's going to vary on where you live, but you need to be offering competitive wages because when they can go to Chick-fil-A or H-E-B, I know y'all have H-E-B up here, or the grocery store and start out making more than you're offering them to turn wrenches and they don't have to invest $10,000 in tools right up front, they're not going to come work for you. Okay? You're wasting their time and yours. If they have to stay, they don't want to stay living at home. I promise you. Don't go, well, you need to have a cheaper truck and you need to, not buy Starbucks. That didn't fix anything for anybody, okay? Because there's nothing cheap now. Have y'all seen the marketplace prices for used trucks that don't have engines in them?
$20,000.
Yeah, let's get real here. All right. Revise job benefits with employee feedback. What? I'm going to tell y'all that if you do not keep up with contemporary offers for job benefits, maybe this is something just as simple as we're adding a free day off that you can use for whatever, no questions asked. You just need to give us a heads up. It does not affect your vacation time. They're gonna love that. They're probably gonna want to, okay? For a whole year? Yeah, okay? But it's stuff like that. Sit down with your company, and this is company culture stuff. Sit down with your employees and ask them, are the benefits working for y'all, or do we need to make revisions? There are a lot of independent companies who have not revised their health care or retirement plans in 10 years. There's a lot of big companies that haven't. That's insane, okay? It's also expensive. Training and tool allowances. Pay for their training. I said you need to invest in them. Pay for them to have training. Maybe you're not comping a whole weekend at an event like this for them, but maybe you're paying for them to do some online training or go to an ATG that's held locally or something like that. Stay up with training so that you can get guys in. There are a lot of companies that offer free training, okay? And you just have to hunt it down because they don't talk about it, right? Tool allowances. Really, really popular one is if you have an annual specialty tool budget. If there is a special tool that you need that's kind of expensive, we'll buy it for you and it's yours to keep, right? So we're not talking will have lasting effects, not just on their personal future, okay? I just taught a group 4 Gen Z students. One of them was one of my graduates to get their level 1 deer certifications at SPI. I got to spend a week with them. The 3 that I didn't teach came from other colleges. They had weak areas in electrical and hydraulics. And I said, guys, I am willing to stay as late as you want to stay. I have a key to this shop. How much do y'all want to learn? We put in 2 14-hour days on electrical and 2 14-hour days on hydraulics. They passed their level 1 tests with a 98 and a 100. If they had gone to an actual deer school at Columbus or Minneapolis, and I can say this, I've been to them, they would have been kicked out the door at 3 p.m. whether they passed or not, whether they knew it or not. And I'm not hating on the deer method. Deer's got great teaching methods, but they had gaps before the deer stuff they were supposed to be learning that would have kept them from being able to pick up that material. I gave them the opportunity and they matched my energy. I did not make them stay. They were not paid to be there those extra hours. Okay? So keep that in mind. The biggest thing I want to ask y'all, are you investing in the future of the industry? Because Gen Z is our future. They really are. Okay, I got 5 minutes. Questions?
Makes you feel so undervalued. And then I was out of that company within a month because I felt that my contributions to the company were worthless at that point. That's a really hard thing to overcome.
That's a great point.
Over there.
Giving in the question is not fully explained. So we have a person who asked for more responsibility, but were they given more responsibility? Did we neglect to give them the responsibility that they asked for because they were felt unchallenged? That's one thing. Compensation, that could be, but generally compensation is a lesser level than satisfaction in what you're doing. So if you're satisfied in your job, you'll take a little less compensation in order to feel satisfied in what you do. Growth, maybe they're looking for growth and you're given the responsibilities, but you're not giving them any promotional achievements. They're not getting any further up in the company. They're still at the same level, but they're given more and more to do. So that could play into it. Work-life balance is probably not as much here because we're talking about they're not asking for time off, they're asking for more work. So management is probably the key here because management is not paying attention to what's going on. They're saying, oh, you want more work, let's give you more work, but why do you want more work? What are you looking for? What's your growth potential? What are your aspirations in the company? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
What's your end goal coming up?
What is it? Yeah, I mean, are you here for the long run? Are you here for short term just to get a little bit of promotion so you can go somewhere else? But if you've been here for a long time, were you here just because you felt like you were stuck, or were you here because you're happy with what you do? And happiness in the workplace is very important. If you're not happy with what you do, you're not happy with the people around you, you're not happy with management, those all play into whether you're a long-term employee or a short-term employee.
That's a great point. And
Crazy hearing your story. Corey and I have been friends for many years, not friends like we hang out every weekend, but friends like when he needs to get something off his chest, I'm one of the guys that he can communicate with because I went through it too. Luckily, we didn't get in trouble like you did. But when Corey says things like, I pleaded guilty, pretty much everybody in this room is guilty of what he pleaded guilty to. And I think sometimes you don't realize that, or maybe you don't even think about that, but what you got in trouble for, everybody in the industry should have gotten in trouble for. So I got some questions for you. I wanted to break this up into segments so you can do as many reels, Facebook posts, Instagram posts, and any of you guys that can share this stuff. Biggest thing that Corey needs right now is the nightmare stories. Like, he needs to stress to the government that there are people dying because of emissions equipment. The very reason that emissions equipment exists is because the government says that we as diesel truck drivers are killing low-income families. That is the most racist and stupidest verbiage I've ever heard in my life. When you sent that to me, I was like, you got to be kidding, like, it's unbelievable. How can we put that on paper? And so they did, and so they're trying to say that people like us are killing low-income families that live in projects and low-income housing with NOx emissions. I cannot tell you one single story about one human being in my life that died, got sick, or is currently dying, or is sick because they breathed in diesel emissions.
And the government honestly would have to say the same thing from the front of, they say, right, PM 2.5, that's, to us, we know that is basically soot out the exhaust, right? And the government comes around and they say, well, Corey, your products harm or increase the mortality rate of humans by 4,500 people. And the thing about PM 2.5 is that's also road gravel, dust, brake dust, wildfires, and our diesel soot, along with smoking. So, and it's kind of all lumped into one thing. So whenever they're saying your PM 2.5 harmed this many people, it's hard to get that number whenever we're all combining it into one. So it's a theatrical number. And I think the number is closer to 0.003%, and within America, less than like 0.1%. So the government, one thing is the EPA has a duty to enforce the law, even if the law is written rather poorly, as we all know, right? The thing is, they have to enforce, basically, if there is any adverse effects or theoretical effects to human health, then it is their responsibility to take that down. And to them, there is no cost greater than human life, which I think we could all agree with as well. But if the chance is, say, 0.3%, that maybe the diesel trucks caused it and not the wildfire that offset all of our emissions by 1,200 years, they still have a responsibility to enforce the health of humans, right? Without looking at the cost or a cost-benefit analysis of this, we end up in the situation like we're in today, where we have very inefficient systems that continuously fail, and even on emergency vehicles. Vinny, you were speaking of emergency vehicles recently.
Yeah.
That, it's not a theory that if the ambulance system, DPF fails, that someone can get harmed. If the fire truck can't make it to the site, it gets harmed. If the former has a regen in a field and it catches the field on fire with the workers in it, those aren't theories. Those are actually things that realistically happen. So I think it's a really, really good opportunity with this administration because they're listening. It's really, really a good opportunity. We're going the right places, but there has to be a standard, of course. None of us, everybody, no one here wants bad air. We don't want bad air, right? We don't want to go back to the 70s era of a ton of smog, but of course that's not going to happen, and we'll be able to get into those details as to why. Even without emissions, that wouldn't happen.
Well, and I think I've been thinking about this for a month since you agreed to come up here and speak on this, and I know everybody out there is just like wanting to hear your story. So part of the questioning that I wanted to ask, and I don't know how many people here have been visited by the EPA, but I know how nerve-wracking it was for me. Was there any early warning signs? Like, did you have any idea that you were going to be criminally prosecuted for working on diesel trucks?
I never in a million years would have thought that we would have been able to be criminally prosecuted, because our understanding was that you can only be criminally prosecuted under a stationary law, right? Like plants and things like that. For mobile source, there wasn't a criminal provision. So we're more than willing to, I was at the end of the day, I was really fighting for racing. You know, if our company can't supply parts or tuning or whatever to fix these vehicles, at our core, we're a racing company. I'm a pro driver. I was doing racing in this before I made any money in it. That's my heart, is racing. So it's like, well, you know, with this civil fight, maybe we can try to get the really, really broad language, because all of us in here always look at the EPA and the language and everything else included, and it's like, what does that mean? Or how are they interpreting that? And whenever, is this cutting out? Try to fix it. That better? Okay, hopefully it'll quit. ADHD is also your friend.
No, we're just covering like the early warning signs. You were talking about racing.
Yes, so like at our core, we're a racing company. So it's like, if we can't sell anything but on-road tunes, and we got to go through the whole shebang of doing that, at my core, I'm still a racer. How can I build a legal race car? And I never in a million years would have thought that argument, that question would have led to what everything went to. It was totally caught off guard.
Personally, financially, how did this affect you as well as the business? I mean, I've watched you guys struggle through, and I know it's been a struggle. Like, you do a good job of carrying it and putting on a good face. And
it was. I'll expand on it some. If you knew me before, you don't know me now. I had to kill the old me and the perception of being tough and all of that to survive this. And this isn't a pitiful me story. I'm blessed that this happened. It forced me to be a better person. But you know, they came after my family, practically debanked, didn't have access to assets, and I had a big fine to pay. And you know, I thought that we would have a payment plan that would make sense, but it was that didn't happen, and you need this now. My family that was on accounts, you know, before the diesel industry, before I was into this, I had like a little rental company, right? You know, like bounce houses you'll get for the kids. So I had stuff like that, rock walls, even sumo suits, which should have brought them. I think I still got them. But you know, even those businesses were brought into play, and it's a nightmare that I wouldn't wish on anyone from. And it was difficult because we had COVID going on as well, right? That feels like, it feels like the COVID thing almost didn't happen now, but it very much so happened, right? Like, that was crazy, insane times. Peak wokeness. We'll just go ahead and put it like that. That was like peak woke era. And the day that I found out that I was being criminally prosecuted, you know, we were looking at 5+ years in prison, and originally they were coming after me for $40 million. And surprise, I don't have that. That's no surprise. That was a bad day. I went to a meeting. I discovered that. I was completely distraught. I went to my hotel, sat in a chair, and my wife now told me, I don't really remember the day too much, but she told me that I sat in that chair and stared at the wall for 2 hours, and she said, "Is everything okay?" And I said, "No, I just need to process it and we'll figure it out." So about 2 hours, I guess, I stared at the wall, and then I got up and I turned the TV on, and I watched Hurricane Laura come through, and had my cameras pulled up on my phone, and everything I owned that same day got destroyed. You you know, thankfully my home was still livable, but had holes in it. Holes in the roof was gone. It's nightmares. Just absolute, like, what you would consider a really, really, really bad day. And I was able to, you know, we were running, with the hurricane, we had crews at the office that was like 100-man search and rescue missions. We were feeding tons of people. Lucas Oil and so many other players, probably some in this room. I know some in this room actually. You know, we're basically made a hub at my facility to where we can try to take care of our little town. So I was so busy on literally trying to survive, right? That I didn't really, I think, mentally process everything that was going on, and especially with COVID and everything. And I was being drugged to DC all the time. You know, it was basically depositions, but I'll call them interrogations. It was the things nightmares are made of. Around, I'd say 2023, all the plans and everything that I had was really going down the window. My access to finances and things just really were bad. I was having to lay off like good employees at the time. It was super, super difficult. Get to the peak of the emotional toll, I would say it was August 2023, and I remember like yesterday. You know, I'm not trying to preach or have a religious talk here or anything, but I can't tell this story without this piece. I remember I was laying in my bed and I was too numb to cry. Anybody else got there where things are so bad that like you can't even hardly process? That's where I was. My health had gotten really bad. I was going to the doctor left and right. My testosterone was 163. Just blood work was terrible. And he's like, hey man, if you don't change something in your life, like you're legit gonna be dead in 6 months. You have to change something. So just everything felt like it was crashing around me. And you know, in a dark place that I didn't see any light. And I'm the guy that can find light in anything. But that was a hard month. And at the peak of August, laying in bed, I asked God. I said, I will do anything to fix this problem. Humbly, like if you knew me before, I mean, I've always done my best to treat everybody really well. But if you've never, I thought I went through storms, but I never really went through a storm. When you hit rock bottom and there's nowhere, you feel like there's just no hope in sight at all. All your man-made great plans and your legal strategies and your $1,800 an hour attorneys and everything else is just absolutely not going well. And you know you've got roughly a 7-day window that you're really screwed. As a business owner, I mean, raise your hand if you've ever been in a like really bad spot in your business and it's gotten dark. Like I think we've all, I mean, if you haven't, I recommend taking more chances and grow harder. Right? But it was that, and I asked God, just please help me have the wisdom necessary to fix this problem. I'll do anything, I'll do whatever. And I felt something pulling at me. It's like, it's not enough. So at that point, I decided, look, I'll run 1 mile a day. I'll work out every day. I'll do the hardest diet I can find, carnivore diet, which I'm still gonna do.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. But I started that. It's like, what's the most difficult things that I can do to try to prove to God while being faithful that I can resolve this problem, because it was beyond my control. It was well beyond my control. And
government shut your bank accounts down, couldn't even access the money you were making.
It was such a nightmare. It was just whatever plans you have, just throw them out the window, right? And I actually had like some peace that night, and I actually slept pretty good. I wasn't sleeping; things were bad. I never got to the point of like I don't want to be on this earth anymore. But that emotion that I imagine people feel during that time, I felt it for the first time, and it even changed my perception on people that don't make it through their struggles and end it early. It was really bad. So what ended up happening was the next day I just felt more inspired. My situation hadn't changed yet, but I felt better. And I needed a certain amount of money to solve an immediate problem, or I was kind of screwed. And that money came in the mail that week as a tax refund from like 3+ years prior. And it gave me so much faith to know that this situation just could have turned around for me just a little bit in this moment, but ultimately it let me know the moment that, you know, I humbled myself and put faith in, that happened, and it let me know that maybe I'm not alone in this fight. I'm really not alone. And that was the turning point, I would say, of my mentality, going all into it. And I've still tried my best to take and carry that same routine today. But it drove me to such a low point that I found God again. And I think a lot of us in this room are we're very strong men and women. You're not going to be a business owner for a prolonged amount of time if you're not, right? Most businesses fail within 5 years. So, that mentality carried me really, really well, but it was at the darkest spot that I was able to actually find myself. And today, even, I wouldn't go back in time and really change too terribly much, because all of those hard times brought me to a mental place, but ultimately a spot of faith that, I'm scared to go to DC. I'm scared to death doing these things we're doing. Like, I am not an expert professional at this. Right?
You don't do congressional hearings for fun?
Oh God. Like, my shaking and freaking out. No, it's like all them feelings of your stomach drop, like that was all still happening, but with this newfound faith that I really, really embraced, I can walk into these dark chambers that before it's like, oh, heck no, that's not, nope, someone else can do that. Now it's, I feel like I've been placed in these positions and given the faith and the strength to carry through it. But I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it, dude.
Well, I thought that was an important part for everybody here to hear, because the most frustrating thing for me, we've had a lot of private conversations, Facebook messages, whatever, over the years, and I've kind of been rooting for you, praying for you throughout it all. And then to see people on Facebook, like, Corey sold out the industry, Corey's working with the government, Corey's doing this, man, that stuff pisses me off.
Yeah, that was hard, because like what we were doing, our intentions in the background, and I've seen it. I've seen a lot of it. I even seen people fabricating documents to try to throw us under the bus to try to get a competitive advantage, and it was super, super hard. But that was all part of the blessing as well, because in the end, everyone's gonna, I think starting to see, but everyone will definitely be able to see once we complete this process that it was this was just the industry I love. And my thing is it's really not for me. Chad's been with me for 13 years now. He's like a brother to me. He helps run the show, and he can tell you it's to run this business through all of this has been such an eye-opening experience. I hope no one ever has to go through it, but at the same time, if you're facing something that it feels like you're not going to get through, or there's no end in sight, like, there is still 100% hope. And I'm hoping at the end of the day that the message that can be sent through all this is, through faith, man, you can do all things. You really can. Whatever storm you get into, you're going to get through it. And during that time, whenever I felt like, a lot of the industry was against us, and rightfully so. I basically was under a gag order. So as I'm seeing all these things that are said, I can't even really respond to it.
You can't even defend yourself.
Yeah, I can't even really defend myself. So we just had to eat it. But all these things make you stronger. They make you stronger.
Yeah, I think that's an important part of the story. Another thing that you mentioned that I couldn't fathom until I saw the numbers. Like, we've all felt it. Like, the last 5 years, just the cost of living has it's like we're getting choked out. Like, a half of a grocery cart full of groceries is $500. We used to fill the grocery cart up for $200 a night. And I've always, it's politics, it's whatever. But you broke down cost burdens to owners. And you've got hard numbers, like these aren't fake made up numbers, but can you touch on the cost of diesel emissions that's put on this country, like every single thing in this room was moved by a diesel engine at some point.
That's it.
These chairs, my boots, your clothes, the food that we're gonna have at lunchtime. A diesel engine moved everything in this building at one point, and the cost of living in this country has been driven up by diesel emissions. A faulty EGR valve, a bad DPF, a bad SCR system, like all of these things that fail, you don't think about it, like as mechanics, it's just like, oh, there's a broken part, we'll fix it. Well, that broken part didn't exist for 30 years, and now we're stuck with them. Can you touch on the numbers there?
Yeah, so it's an unbelievable number. And the thing is like I was saying earlier, the EPA doesn't consider basically the cost of, or the burden that this puts on us. They just focus on that very, very broad mortality rate, which whole different topic, but the number just during regen on these trucks, right? So there's a lot of factors to be considered. Like let's use NASA for example. And I gotta credit this to TJ Lake. Y'all have seen the story of Troy Lake. That's his daddy. It's Troy Lake, who recently got a pardon from Trump over this. And I'm sure many of you have seen it. His son's TJ, and he worked at NASA. He brought up a really good point. That point was that the EPA is pretty standalone in how they conduct their measurements. I'll use an example of a NASA rocket. Let's say that that we can decrease, because NASA has to do emissions impact statements, right? So let's say that rocket, if we redesign that rocket, every time it goes up, it'll save 2% on emissions. And let's say that it's got 10 test flights. So, or 10 flights in general. To go back and say, well, if we redesign this rocket, we can lower the emissions by 2%. NASA can't just do that because you're gonna save 2% on emissions of flight. They have to do basically an assessment, what's called cradle to the grave, which means what's the entire environmental impact? Well, if upgrading that rocket would cost, say, 25% in emissions due to manufacturing, freight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the 2% offset that rocket achieves every time it goes up it's already screwed by the manufacturing. But on the EPA's perspective, it's basically these systems work on these vehicles, and we consider them to be efficient, and we measure them from 0 to 150,000 miles. They aren't considering what I like to call a fuel penalty, right? So an emissions-equipped vehicle is generally 2 to 4 miles per gallon less than one that doesn't have emissions on it. So and the government states it's roughly 3. So if we have a 2 to 4, let's call it 3, fuel penalty on this vehicle, then we should also consider we're having to go to the fuel station more. So then we have a big rig, which also has the fuel penalties installed, to deliver the fuel there. And then we have an SCR system, the wonderful cat piss, right? DEF, that it comes in cardboard boxes. It's delivered by trucks with fuel penalties. And then all this stuff has to go to the landfill. There's so many factors that come into play with this that if we can actually get the measurement to be accurate and look at the global impact that it takes, the rare earth materials that it takes to develop these systems, the transportation of the rare earth materials on ships, the recycling, right? I think it's 15 or 20% that these emission systems are sitting non-recycled, just piling up. If we just measure 0 to 150,000 miles for emissions on these vehicles, then we must assume that at 150,000 miles, we're smashing these trucks that we all know have 500,000 mile plus engines in them. So what do? We just quit measuring at 150,000? Well, that's what they do. But this administration really seems to get it. They really seem to understand. And if we can just take these standards and actually make them make sense, right? Like that's just common sense, then I think we're going to be able to come out and find out that these emission systems in the long run are actually more harmful for the environment than had we were able to take and do an emissions tier such as we had shipped to Mexico or Brazil, right? Those trucks, they ship out, they don't have after treatment on them. There's already a standard that exists, and it's terrible for us to have our neighbors in these other countries have this benefit over America, especially when much of them ship from America to other countries. So there's common sense resolutions that can come into play, absolutely. And I mean, anyone in here that's a business owner, you can't say, well, I need to fix that wall over there, so I'm gonna go ahead and spend all the payroll on the wall, and then come Friday, there's no one to fix the wall. That's just not how business works. So the good thing is with the Trump administration, we're seeing that it's more of a business-minded administration, and they get this. We're currently working, we've got a really, really good team of us. There's a fellow named Carson Jergerson. I think everyone needs to follow this cat. He's great, we've become really good friends. Dave Sparks introduced me to him. But it's pretty well me, Carson, TJ Lake, Troy Lake, Dave Sparks, we even got Dave Bell, Gil Banks, a couple of others involved in this thing that get it. Like, everybody understands like this problem. I mean, you guys shop owners, how often do people come into your shop with a broken exhaust system or a broken SCR, especially cold temp issues? I mean, this just flat out doesn't work. So what we've had the benefit of doing, which is just a miracle, right? Like, I'm from a small town. It's Kinder, Louisiana. The chances of having an oversight here, the chances of being in Zoom meetings with the Small Business Association, the White House press, the EPA, I would have never, 5 years ago. It's crazy. It was just a few years ago. It's a conspiracy to violate the Clean Air Act on December 17th, 2024. So this was just a short while ago that we were seeing an administration come in and say, hey, we realize there's issues, we understand, we just have to have pathways to be able to get there. And the biggest thing is you see me commenting and posting on Facebook, like, post the problems you see. You could go to the EPA's page, I don't care if they're talking about solar panels, be respectful, but post on there like pictures, real world stuff. I promise you guys, they're looking at it. They see it. I mean, if we're at a state in this industry that you've got the diesel tuners going up there and trying to do his best to explain how this stuff's working, we've got an administration that's listening. We've got a shot at it.
Yeah, and you guys, we got hot mics as well, so if anybody's got a question as we're discussing this, raise your hand, somebody will bring you a mic, and you can ask myself a recorded question, but...
I want to capitalize on that. Where's the mic? Is the mic out there somewhere? Someone. The thing is, too, is that conspiracy word, what's that mean? It sounds really, really, really bad. Ooh, it's a conspiring person. And it is bad. So the thing is that means basically that I sold a product to another person. So if someone here bought a product, any type of product, from someone else, you're now in a conspiracy. So a normal, you can replace the word conspiracy with business transaction, right? So, and there's a lot of keywords that they use, tampering, delete, OBD, monitoring system, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, what are we doing? What do? We fixed the trucks that were broken, that many times the parts were on back order or flat out unavailable. And I regret the way we did some of the things we did. But what I see a lot on Facebook and everywhere else is someone's on the side of the road, they're looking for someone to help them, and there was no parts available, and the next thing you know, the guy's rolling again. And that happens whenever someone fixed the truck. It's just unfortunate that the way that the laws and regulations are currently written do not allow for the mechanics and shops to actually fix a broken system. And in many cases, you'll have someone that have an older vehicle like a 08, 09 Cummins. Just use that for an example. How well do those emission systems work? A little overhead message to you 24/7. But those systems suck so bad. But to expand on that, these systems, let's say you've got a truck that's got 300,000 miles on it. Let's say that exhaust system, all the sensors in it and everything else, it has maybe an 8 to 10% tolerance for error, right? So if you're outside the range, then you're in a thing. Well, we all know older vehicles, they make a little bit more oil. The turbo's a little bit more tired. Everything's a little bit more tired. You've got an aged engine that's been running freaking EGR and everything else through it. It's not happening. You could put a brand new exhaust on that truck, and then the customer says, hey, they go down the road 5 miles, and hey, I'm throwing these codes again. So then it goes back to the mechanic shop. They're trying to diagnose the vehicle. They don't see anything wrong with it. We just put a brand new exhaust system, but you're swimming up creek. Because if the engine system or the components on the engine have deteriorated more than the tolerance that exhaust allows, well, now the EPA is going to expect you to basically completely replace that engine for the most part, or start going in all these components just to satisfy the exhaust system. But it's a scam. And the reason it's a scam is because if I have an engine, let's say we rebuild it, get it back pretty fresh, but let's say that the whole system, the whole component, and our engine's now 15, 20% less than what it was, good from the factory. How long is your emission system going to last? Are you going to get another 150,000 miles out of that emission system that's installed on the truck? No, you're not, because the engine's not as fresh as what it was new. So you've got someone that owns that 07.5 to 09 Dodge. The person that owns that truck that's continually dealing with this situation, if they were financially able to, then they would go out and likely get a new truck so that way they can still get to work and do their job and put food on their table. But, you don't like this. But that low income, we're gonna have to say low income, that tax bracket of person has now been the one actually harmed by these regulations. So where they state it was us harming low income and colored communities as they had put against me out in public. That's their word.
That's the actual verbiage.
That's the actual verbiage. In reality, they were the ones actually harming these people because all of you see it every day in your shops. How many people can anyone raise their hands? Like if you've dealt trying to legitimately fix a customer's truck and the emission system's on back order? Any? Okay. Yeah. For months? Yeah. The rental company's not paying for that. So who's harmed at the end of the day? I think Elon Musk says it best. The perception of doing good. No, the reality of doing good. And at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want common sense reform. We want language that we don't have to have a PhD or go hire an attorney to understand. Everybody in here wants to do things legally, but it's so difficult in the current regulatory environment to even understand what that completely means. So a really big deal is trying to get language that we can all interpret. It's common sense, and you don't need to go through 100,000 pages to try to figure out just how do I do my job without getting in trouble.
Well, that brings me to the next question too, is I know the answer to this because I was a service writer and shop manager for 11 years in the middle of this battle that you've been going through. And unluckily, I saw other shops getting in trouble for this stuff, and so we stopped doing what we thought was the right thing for the customer. You take a bad, poorly designed part off and you throw it in the trash, and the vehicle runs just fine without that poorly designed part. The whole delete conversation is so stupid. Like, I know there was kids. We're always gonna have a small fraction of bad actors, but the people I was dealing with in the shop were not kids wanting to blow black smoke. It was Farmer John. I can't feed my freaking cows. My truck goes into regen. It catches the hayfield on fire. I lose my cows. I can't let my truck idle while I'm up in a bucket trying to fix the power lines to get your power back on. So can you take this stuff off so I can let my truck idle so I can run my PTO? Never in my career as a diesel salesperson or a technician or service writer was I ever in the back room conspiring in the hallway like, we should delete it. Oh yeah. Like, just so stupid. And that's what a lot of Americans that don't have any clue what the diesel industry is, that's what they think. They think we're just out there breaking laws. They think we're just bad actors, we're criminals, we're black smoking out senators that are driving around in their Prius. So, after all this conversation, did the EPA fix anything by persecuting hardworking, patriotic Americans that were trying to save other hardworking, patriotic Americans money? God, I love this part.
How many people in here has dealt with bad tuning? Hey, how you doing? Okay, so Corey's not just making this up and putting it on Facebook. Heard that, they say. So.
Oh, they heard you. They're listening.
They know. They'll see this. So that the weaponized Biden administration, worst administration in our history, was the most harmful thing that has happened in this country in so long. They came after our industry in a historic in an absolutely historic fashion. And I'm not going to say that everybody that did it, is necessarily a bad person. You got to understand their point of view. If you're a bureaucrat, you've been in D.C. all these years, you call outdoors, go into the state park that's like 3 acres, and you're like, oh heck yeah, I'm in the woods. You're one of those people. Well, whenever you hear, hey, these guys, that's the rednecks are killing everybody with their trucks, they're killing babies. Like, and you believe that, people that aren't into our industry, if you're not into something too terribly well and there's not a doctor in the room, someone acting like a doctor can actually sound smart. Try WebMD and tell them that you've got a rash, see what happens. But what ends up happening is these people passionately feel as though they're doing the right thing. And to some level, you have to give them a little bit of respect because they hit harder than most of us ever hit back. They are so passionate about this, and if you thought that someone's legitimately harming your kids, you are going to do everything in your power to go after them. So to the credit of some of these folks over there who are so aggressive, you got to hand it to them. They went after it, they were passionate about it. The problem is they just don't understand really what they're working on.
What happened in 2018? Corey Willis stopped tuning trucks. Other talented American tuners stopped tuning trucks. And so now we've got this diarrhea tuning dribbling down from the Canadian border.
And that's the thing, the problem, so in the government's effort to stop this madness, they actually made the problem 3 times worse. The only difference is Americans will get charged civilly and criminally for the problem, while the Canadians can take and get rich off of the situation. And Canada, Russia, China, I see it all. I mean, you don't have to be an expert in the industry, just some Google searches. And they're selling full file banks online. I seen one for $25 the other day. And there was stuff in there, I looked through it. It had my name labeled on it, and I was like, I never built that. So when you get these people that get these file banks, they might think they're getting old school reputable tuning and whatnot. No. The people that are selling this stuff, they don't care about you. They don't care about the trucks. They care about making some money because they had no investment in this industry.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Is there a way to protect yourself from that? We know that we have patent laws and stuff, and of course with tuning, it's very different.
Of course, with tuning, that's very different. Is there anything that protects us, especially under digital media copyright laws? Because that could get somebody in a lot of trouble for something that they genuinely never even knew about.
There's a couple of ways, but the problem is that you're going to spend so much money trying to get them that it outweighs the benefit of getting them, and then the next day they pop up underneath a new name, and then the United States doesn't have jurisdiction to do anything to them, so now you're also fighting, outside the jurisdiction. It gets so nasty and webby.
An additional cost to the industry.
Yeah, and an additional cost to the industry. Yeah, it's so the heaviest enforcement that we've seen was a net negative. Well done, Biden administration. You came in, made the problem 3 times worse while crushing 60% of the American diesel performance industry.
$500 million annually of just tuning, not the pipes and the plates and all the other things that go with it. Just the delete tuning alone is $500 million a year of American dollars leaving this country going to another. And someone says, well, how do you come up with that number? Use the EPA statistics.
Yeah.
So, and the way that works is they tell you how much they stopped in America, how many people they went after, and then we can see roughly what they've caught coming across the border and the things that's involved across the border. These are just the knowns. The number's much larger than that. But the elephant in the room of the conversation is they made the problem worse. Now vehicles are less reliable. America's losing that, has been losing that battle. And I'm super, super, super passionate about this because I love this country, man. To be from Kinder and to be able to be up here and speak with you guys, it's cool. I mean, even on my smaller scale, this is the American dream to me. I'm talking to people in the diesel industry. This is freaking awesome. And America can win. We are the best freaking country in the world. America is hands down the best country in the world. And to know that other countries are able to capitalize on that right now while citizens and shops and everyone else is being harmed by the grift, it hurts. It's worth fighting for.
That's why I come here legally.
Yeah, and so, you know, another question that I came up with before we came up here was I look at this a lot from the customer's view because I had so many thousands of conversations with customers about this particular topic, and you know, it was almost never I want better fuel economy. Like I had those conversations, like people would come in like, oh, I sell insurance and I'm driving 1,000 miles a week, I need better fuel economy. Those conversations happened, they were rare. The number one conversation was hardworking Americans like, I cannot use my truck because it's broke down on the side of the highway in D-rate, or I cannot use my truck because I'm on the third EGR valve that's gotten stuck. Like, they just want it fixed. So what is the EPA, what is their reply to that? Because that has had to come up.
Yeah, so it's a super, like, we would all like to think that the EPA could literally be like, yep, that's stupid, turn it off, and we're gonna go to, you know, this tier 2 standard and move on. But they also have to follow rules and guidelines to undo a lot of the harm. With the endangerment finding, there's lots of awesome stuff. You know, if you're following EPA or Lee Zeldin, then you'll be. Oh, no, back. If you're following the EPA or Lee Zeldin, you'll see that they rescinded the endangerment finding. Yeah, it is.
I needed technology. Thanks, Bill. So you see that they rescinded the endangerment finding, and that's a really, really big deal. So, but that involves greenhouse gases, right? What we're dealing with on our pickups, and it's painful that I know so much about this, but what we're dealing with on our pickups is criteria pollutants. So, and the big hurt of all of us, of our vehicles is NOx and particulate matter. So I brought up the Canadian wildfires that basically that's, you know, offset us by 1,200 years.
One wildfire.
Not
all the wildfires that we have every single year.
Just the one in 23. Just the one in 23. And this is, like I said, this is kind of a business administration. So they look at these numbers and they look at this and it's like, okay, yeah, we recognize that there's a problem, but there's multiple steps that they have to go through to fix this problem, obviously. Y'all had seen roughly 30, 35 or so days ago, they asked for all the manufacturers to get them their emissions failure reports. I think it was for years, maybe 16, 19, and 2023 or so, something like that. Like that's a necessary step that has to be taken. The EPA can't just come out and say, oh, we heard there's a bunch of problems, so now we can fix it. No, they have to have good hard data. So whenever these emissions reports come back, maybe they've got them back, I don't know. Some of them probably got an extension, who knows. But when this report comes back, we're gonna see a failure rate that won't surprise me if it exceeds 30%. And it's super important to note that the EPA states that roughly 15% of diesel vehicles on the road are deleted. So if it's 30%, they say 15 to 30, but I just rolled 15. If we come back at a failure rate of 30% on these systems, and we add another 15% on top, that's an emergency. How would your business survive if you had a 45 to 50% failure rate on things? In the real world, that don't work, and we don't get to print money. So a big step is them actually being able to go back through all of that data. And next week, I'm pretty excited. On Wednesday, or at least Wednesday, March 11th, there's actually a hearing for DEF issues in cold temps. So, which is no secret to anybody. Like, that sucks. It doesn't work. And just kind of zoom out a little bit and watch how this administration's kind of playing through it. They've taken like.
And this is a good thing.
Yeah, this is a really, really good thing because they, like I said, they have to go through this legal process. But again, the people working in there, they're not necessarily in this industry. They don't really completely understand the problem. So, there's multiple teams doing things, but like with our little team, we're compiling this data and we're having meetings with them and we're submitting it. And what's cool is this administration is really, really cool in the aspect of each department is holding the other department accountable. So for all of us in here, we're all small businesses. So we report issues to the Small Business Association, the SBA. So if we're in a meeting, for example, and we're working with the EPA and we're telling them the issues, the SBA hears it kind of from the business side, and then nothing would happen with the EPA, then the SBA can come back, get with the White House, tell them what's going on. The White House address the EPA, like, hey, what's going on here? This is the first time I've seen where like multiple departments of accountability are in action. But the number one thing is that they actually hear us, like they get it. I thought that whenever we met with these guys that I was gonna have to try to sell them on the problem of how bad it is and give them all the data. No, they know. They know because this is, a lot in this administration is made up of real people that run businesses and actually have some diesel trucks, have some farms. They've seen it, they dealt with it. It's not a big secret. So the biggest question is how do we unwind this thing? And the way that we unwind it is the easiest thing in the world, honestly. 2 + 2 = 4. You don't have to lie about it. Everybody knows that. And the data behind these emission systems being more harmful than not having them and having a common sense standard is simple math. So that's all we've basically been doing is providing the math, letting them see it, and then let their experts and everybody else try to work with that. And it's been really, really, really inspiring to actually see this admin taking these steps necessary. And I'm really, really hopeful that we're going to get to common sense.
And that's the wildest part because, I kind of opened with, I've never met a human being that was laying in a deathbed. I think of Ben Stiller in Zoolander, I got the black lung pop. I've never heard of that. But that's why this exists. I can tell you countless stories working with local fire departments and first responders, ambulance company. We had a huge contract with the ambulance company and sitting there with the EMTs at the front counter of the diesel shop. Dude's barely hanging on because he watched somebody die in the ambulance last night because the DPF was so impacted with soot that the ambulance wouldn't go over 15 miles an hour, and the dude died in the back of the ambulance. I can tell you those stories, lots of them. We worked on 4 to 7 vehicles a month for that ambulance company. A huge contract for us. I talked to the firefighters that showed up late to the fire, and the family inside burned to death with their dogs because they didn't make it in time because the DPF was stuck in regen and the truck couldn't go the speed limit or over to get to the fire. I've had those conversations, terrible conversations. I've seen the hurt in their eyes. Like, I've never heard of somebody dying from standing next to a dynamometer like we've all done. Watching 30 trucks dyno in a day, the freaking black soot's falling from the ceiling and we're all smiling.
If PM or NOx was legitimately killing people, I don't think
We'd all be
the
dead.
majority of us would be talking today.
Bizarre. Well, wrapping it up, I got two more questions, and one, we had a conversation.
So, probably about half this room has been here all 3 years, and it's been great. So we hope to see you all back again here next year. Bring your friends, bring your enemies. I don't know.
We don't have enemies.
Yeah, we don't have that. Yeah, but make sure you get the word out, and the replays on this.
All right, you guys, we're at the local car wash here. It's about 7 minutes away from the hotel. It's Friday night. We're having the tailgate, so I figured I'd show you underneath the lighting here. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and head back to the hotel. Got the truck washed. Had a bunch of dust on it because at 5 a.m. they started to grind the asphalt right out in front of the hotel. Unfortunately, my truck was parked right in line. It seemed like nobody else got covered in that crap, so had to clean off the PM 2.5 dust that comes from asphalt. The same stuff that the EPA considers deadly that killed 4,500 people. You can do the research. If you know, you know. But anyways, got everything cleaned up. Other than that, we got it ready for the show tomorrow. Hopefully we take home a trophy. It'll be the first for the truck. And we definitely got one of the cleanest 7.3s here.
Set, go! We need music.
Eric's got it. He's got the theory.
There's no way.
Casey's gagging already.
All right, here we go. You ready? Excursion. The award goes to Megan Betts. I gotta tell you, that is a really, really clean excursion out there. But for the complete package, for everything that all the time and effort that's been involved with it, it's going to be for the best Super Duty, and that award is going to go to
Powerstroke boys. As you guys heard correctly, we took home the Best Super Duty Award, sponsored by, nonetheless, Andrew Arthur over at AA Tuning Design. Want to thank you guys. It was a great event. It was nice meeting everybody. Want to give a big shout out to Angela and Bill over at Power Hunger Performance for putting on such an event so we can win an award just like this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this long video. I'm gonna go ahead and close it out now. This thing's like almost 2 hours long, but I just wanted to show you the award. KC Turbo's little shizdas they were giving out at the show. Just a cool little knick-knack. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Without you, we wouldn't be able to do these type of things. So as always, guys, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends and family. We'll see you guys at Summit 7.3 2027.